Hanji, welcome to another episode of the Not in the Clouds podcast. You are joined with Asa Singh, Joan Singh, and Sedab Singh, and you are live on a Monday evening rather than a Tuesday evening. I mean, you won't be live actually. You'll be listening to this. They won't know.
I was speaking to somebody, and I said, "Oh, the next episode is this," and obviously they didn't know that yet. And they was like, "Oh, you ruined the magic of it. We thought it was live." I said, "Oh, sorry."
No, you know what? I'll touch upon that because I want to thank everyone at the beginning just for everything, all the comments that we've been getting, all the support that we've been getting. So if you want to get through to us, if you want to send a message, use Instagram as a way forward, as a way to message us. So, guys, what have you been watching, consuming, reading this week?
Been reading Sar Kutavli. I know we mentioned it last week in the previous podcast. And then it took me a while to find it because the way I thought it would be spelt in English was a bit different. And then obviously Gurumukhi is the way always. So then, searching it like that actually helped. And then I spoke to Sant Nishan Singh, and they said, "Oh, the tika that you're reading isn't a good one." So then I had to start all over again. But yeah, it's really interesting how it goes through the meaning of dharam.
But I have been watching an old film. You might remember it actually. It's called In Time. And the concept of the film was where instead of currency, instead of money, life's currency now is time.
Nice.
And so instead of so you have a watch on your arm, and after your 25th birthday, you get 1 year for free. So you accumulate time by working and contributing to society, but you essentially got a countdown timer on your arm. And when that hits 0, you're dead. And in society, there's people with 1 million years, 1,000 years, months, and there's some people who are living day to day, like hour to hour, minute to minute, second to second. And you can exchange time, you can buy time, you can loan time. And I love the concept of it because we have the same thing in life where, instead of time, well, time is breaths. How many breaths you have in your life denotes how long you're going to live. So, and if you could visualize that as a concept, that I've only got 1 million breaths left, probably not even that actually. I think you can put it into Google, right? You can there's a calculator which tells you how many breaths you've already taken. And if you assume, I've got another 25 healthy years left, maybe, then there's not many breaths left to try and use every single breath.
Well, that's really useful because there's also a Saki that comes from Guru Nanak Dev Ji's time where Guru Nanak Dev Ji goes into a village and looks on the wall, and there's like a chart of people's names, and along them they have like years and times, but it's very small years, so they'll be like 5 years or 6 years. And when they went around the bend, they were very old people. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji asked them why. What does this mean? What's this chart about? And they said to them, well, we only record the time we spend in satsang. And
that's such a humble way of living life. Even if you're 80 years old, you're not really, your physical age means nothing in the context of your spiritual growth. And even if they're 80 years old, spiritually, they would only classify them as what, like 3-4 years old? Because an hour a week, right? If you spend, we spend an hour a week being like satsangi, but it's nothing, is it?
Have you guys watched The Dragon's Den?
Yes.
Recently, or I've seen it, not recently.
Not recently. I discovered there's an Indian version.
Shark Tank.
Yes, Shark Tank.
Shark Tank.
I've watched Shark Tank recently.
Yeah. Have you realized, I've grown up watching Dragon's Den for many years, and if there's people not from the UK here, Dragon's Den is like Shark Tank in the US and Shark Tank in India, but I feel that the dragons are a little bit more humble than the dragons in Shark Tank. They're very abrupt in Shark Tank. They're very obtuse and they're very abrasive for no reason. They give a lot of akkad, as we would say in Punjabi. Right? I don't know how you'd put that in English, but I find that so annoying. I find it so enraging. Like, these people have come to you with an idea, and they've come pretty humbly, right? They're lowering themselves. They're in a TV show. And these guys are ripping their idea, saying, no, this is not viable. Why should I waste my time doing this and investing in your idea? And I just felt, have a bit of humility, man. You've got where you've got to in life because either somebody gave you a leg up. I know one of the ladies' father helped her or something. I don't know what it is, but they've all had a leg up. They've all been helped at some point. So put yourself in that position and help someone else, not just something that's going to be massively business viable. Because I noticed with the Dragon's Den, the English one, if they don't invest, some of them will actually say, well, look, we really like you as a person. We'll come and help you. And come and speak to us or message us, speak to my PA, and then we'll connect. But I found the Indian one really abrasive. I can't watch it.
It could be a cultural thing. Your point about Shark Tank. I mean, so I've noticed in India, because it's quite heavily populous, quite heavily populated, people just don't have the time of day to stop and like let's take a look at traffic, for example, in India. Like, I have the right of way, regardless of what's happening around me. I am the number one priority. If I don't get through, no one's getting through. There's no indicators. Pressing the horn is my right of way.
Horn, okay, please.
Yeah, horn. Yeah, they've got it. Right at the back,
please, yeah, please horn.
But because I think the root of that is it's just so heavily dense that you've got to try and make every effort to get in front. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind. Whereas I think in the UK, we don't have that same challenge, maybe.
Doesn't that go opposite to philosophy in India, though? General philosophy in India. I think that Eastern philosophy is very humble. The way that people conduct themselves on the road isn't necessarily the way that, like in India especially, it's not necessarily the same as how they, like, you know, how we talk about the Dharam Prachar is not like that, is it?
No, but I think that's something. Oh yeah,
can I just touch on this?
Yeah.
Go to any langar and the bead, the crowd, like people are like pushing people out of the way to get the Dal Prashad, man. It's the same.
Yeah, I think there's more like civil discipline here in terms of, like, even if you just look at the roads, right? Like you will stop for somebody to pass you. Right. Yeah. If you do that in India, the person who you're letting pass will get confused.
They'll swear at you.
Yeah, like, why are you stopping for me? Why are you stopping for me? So yeah, actually, this is interesting because I was watching something today, and he says, where did the habit come for Punjabis to be very? He was using the word like quite loose with their money, right? Like doing too much kharcha, not thinking about what you're going to spend. And he gives the example of Ahmed Shah Badali. And he says there was an actual proverb at that time that eat and spend what you can, the rest belongs to Ahmed Shah Badali. Oh. And he was saying that this is something that has had an effect on us and it never really left us. I found it interesting because then you have to think after that there's the Sikh Raj, there's the missile period as well, and still that maintained in us. But I found his obviously there's something there around how culture has had an effect on India, like one of the most looted nations in the world if you look at it.
Yeah, I kind of think that sense of carefreeness comes from allowing yourself to just think, you know what, nothing is permanent and everything is temporary. So even this money that you're enjoying now, it's the same thing as Guru Gobind Singh Ji. I think they've given us a brilliant example when they say mittar pyare nu hal fakiran da kehna, where it doesn't matter where they're staying. Like, it doesn't matter whether they're sleeping in palaces on massive beds or in the jungle with no rajayi on. I think that's where I get it from anyway, because I think, who's seen tomorrow? Do you know what I mean? Nobody's seen tomorrow.
Dharam, one of the pillars of Dharam, or the way it's being held up, is through daya and kima. So meaning compassion and forgiveness. It says, Esthit Dharma Kima Ke Sangha. And then after that, actually, it talks about the opposite. And I think we've spoken about this in previous sessions, but it's Dharam Krodh, Karohot and Vibhanga, meaning that, but then Dharam is destroyed through anger, or it is destroyed through like you having krodh within you.
Can I rephrase the question?
Mhm.
Why is humility important in context of life?
To climb to the top of a mountain, you need to start with the first step. So even though you've done your 4-year degree, that is nothing in experience world apart from
True.
you learning the theory. It's the same thing as, I don't know, when you're younger, you were taught mulmantar, I'm guessing, right? As you grow older, unless you don't sit down and do your Nam Simran, that mulmantar is only just a manual sitting there that you've learnt.
It's that the analogy of like an athlete who every single day they're out training. They're training for either a marathon, tennis match, whatever, right? It becomes muscle memory almost. This is why I feel like sometimes I'm a fake, because I haven't got to that point where I'm humble. And saying you're humble is an oxymoron, because are you humble because you're saying you're humble, or are you humble because you live a humble lifestyle? And then, you mentioned Japji Sahib, and Sadhguru Nanak Dev Ji says, Mohe nirgun, sab gun tere. Mohe nirgun, sab gun tere. And I remember like actually reading that line for the first time, because before then it was just like repetition, and it was lip service basically. But actually, the first time actually reading that line, Mohid Nirgun Sabgun, and taking a pause, shit, yeah, it genuinely brought emotion, but like brought me to tears. That's so true. But it's that self-reflection, and then you look at yourself introspectively. Okay, why am I without virtue? And then you look at all the mistakes that you've made in your life and how you could have done better. And then you look at the love that Sadhguruji gives you, irrespective of all the mistakes that you've made in your life, and you see somebody, and you mentioned this, Juan Kima, forgiveness, as being one of the elements. They still show you forgiveness, and there's a shabad that I love, ki how sammal thakki jiyo, o kade na bole kauda. I've grown weary of making mistakes, but he still never speaks harshly towards me.
I think if we take a step back, how are we defining humility? Like when I was thinking about this, when we picked this topic, something that came in my mind immediately was when Guru Ram Singh Ji says in the Rahatnama, ke apna palai shapan di karni. So that's one aspect where I think...
What does that mean?
Yeah. So I think that that means that, and I think this goes to, I think, a very core definition of humility, which is thinking yourself as low and giving importance to others.
I'm glad you said that, but I want to ask you a question on that before you go further. Thinking yourself as low without giving yourself low self-esteem. How do you do that?
I think there's a Gurbani tuk, and it says, Ja tu ta main maan kiya hai, tud bin kya mera mano. That you replace your maan with something in its place. So that esteem comes from a different source now. And I think what you've just said is really important, because sometimes when we think of being low, I think that can go in the wrong direction as well, of thinking low of yourself in a different sense, right? Of I am useless, or I am not worthy. I don't think that's the angle Sadhguruji's trying to get at there, because obviously that can lead to its own problems, right, mentally. I was listening to a podcast recently, and it was a Vidyarthi of Baba Thakur Singh Ji. I can't remember. Do you remember the name? We was talking about
Gyani Sukhraj Singh.
Gyani Sukhraj Singh. And something at the end of that podcast that I think they touched upon, which was really good, actually. It was talking about the ups and downs of your life, especially in spirituality, that you start learning that, yes, you need to get up early. And it's true, you do, right? But he says that even though there's going to be times where you're not at your best when it comes to that, don't just think that, oh, I'm not at my best, and let's just leave all of it now, right? So there's those elements as well. But yeah, I think going back to that, which har waqt apne palai chupane di karni, meaning that if you have anything in your mind of, I want to do positive, always keep that anonymous. And then I think Saguruji elsewhere they say in one of the Hukamname is Khimati Rajwalenu Guru Ang Sanga. And I think that in terms of how we're replacing that, relating it back to Jatu Tame Mankiya hai, Tudbir kya mera manu. Okay, you're replacing that with this other element, right? And I think the more and more you replace it with that element, with that essence of Sikhi, I think the more and more it actually increases your self-esteem, because you feel that there's something there backing you, or there's this, you feel that power with you, that my Guru Gobind Singh Ji, Guru Nanak Dev Ji is with me. And I think this kind of relates to actually something you sent us, Baji, maybe if you want to touch upon that, where Sadhguruji is talking about who am I to give upadesh to anybody.
It's Guru Angad Dev Ji is talking to either Baba Buddha Ji or it couldn't have been Bhai Gurdas. It must have been Baba Buddha Ji. He's lowering himself. He's at this point the second Nanak. He's come as the second Guru. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's already, given them the Gurgaddi, but they've lowered themselves so much, and they've said, "Who am I to say anything to you who has, been with Guru Nanak Dev Ji?" And that was really touching to me. And in the English meaning underneath that Gurbani Tuk says, what teachings can be imparted to those who have had the divine Guru Nanak as their Guru? And I think that's immense in itself.
What that reminded me of actually is, I see this a lot, and it's not something I mind, but I think in terms of when you read a tuk like that, we think none of the gurus said they were a guru. And we see a lot of times when anybody's talking about Guru Ram Singh Ji. And one of the most rebuttals that I see is that Guru Ram Singh Ji never said that they were Guru. But something I was think is, show me anywhere where Guru said they were Guru. Right? Yeah. And look at the Nimirta of Guru Angad Dev Ji. Guru Nanak Dev Ji has bowed towards them and made them their image. And still, Guru Angad Dev Ji has that bhavana of a Sikh while being a Guru. I think that's where the Guru is trying to get us somewhere, and we kind of get stuck at this one stage. And it is an important part of your bhakti is who is your Isht. But then there's another stage of what are they telling you. And I think this is the greatness of Sikhi, where none of the Gurus are saying that they are anything, but the Sikh, but they have given the Sikh the eyes to see that they are the form of Parmeshwar on this earth. Right? They've shown them who they are really, and I think it's because of that humility that we look up to them. We want to base our lives upon how they've lived. Right? I think humility is a massive element of that. Bhai Gurdas Ji, I was reading their Vars, and even they're talking about the Sikhs of the Guru, and they says, "Meri khalahu mojade gur Sikh handade mastak lagge saad rain vat bhag janade." Okay, please, if only my skin could be made into the shoes for the Sikhs of the Guru.
Talking about shoes, there's a Sakhi that we were reading into now. It was of the Kabul Sangat, when the Kabul Sangat found out that Guru Ram Das Ji had, Deda Lakita, meaning they had left their physical body. Guru Arjan Dev Ji has now ascended onto the Gurgaddi. They've now taken on the Sikh Panth, and they are the current Guru at that time. The Kabul Sangat, which is a pretty strong Sangat, Kabul is in Afghanistan. So the Sangat, they think, Guru Ram Das Ji, they had a connection with Guru Ram Das Ji. I'm not sure whether Guru Ram Das Ji visited there, but I think some of the Sikh had their darshan. And they thought, okay, chalo, it's time for us to go to Amritsar. At that time, the Gur Parvar were in Amritsar, and Harmandir Sahib was where they resided. So the Kabul Sangat set off on foot. I'm not sure how far it is. I think I checked on Google Maps, and I think it's about 350 miles or 400 miles or so from Kabul to Amritsar. So that's a long way, and you got to walk. So it probably took them. There's a group of them, right? So there's Buzurg, there's young kids, and they're all traveling together. They probably had Gadde, they probably had people on horses or donkeys taking them along with them. But obviously not everyone would be on the donkey, they'd be walking as well. So they get to just outside of Amritsar. They thought that day that they were going to get into Amritsar, but they didn't make it in time. So there's a place called Pipli. I think there's a Gurdwara there now called Pipli Sahib, and they stayed in this place, and they had already had this a thought in their head. I wanted to say furna is the word, but a thought had occurred to one of the Sikh, okay, I'm not going to have prashada until I see Sacha Pashaji, until I go and have Guru Arjan Dev Ji's darshan. And a few of them took to that idea. I think most of the group took to that idea, okay, you know, we'll reach Amritsar early morning tomorrow, and we'll have darshan of Sacha Pashaji and then have langar. So they stay in Pipli Sahib, and Sacha Pashaji says to Bhai Gurdas, and says to, they say to Baba Buddha Ji, and they say to Mata Ganga Ji, which is Sacha Pashaji's wife at the time. And Sacha Pashaji is now about 18, 19 at this time. And when they came onto the Gurgadi, I think they were around 18, 19, I'm not sure. So Sacha Pashaji says to them, you know, Sikh Aine, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, they Sikh Aine, and they are residing in Pipli. They must be hungry. They've come a long way. They've been on a huge journey, and we got to feed them. Prashada tusi tiyar karo. Mataji says, Hanji, we'll get it ready. They said that they'll instruct someone to get it ready. Sacha Pashaji said, nay, we're going to make it ourselves. Sacha Pashaji and Mataji made the prashad there, and they set off from Amritsar to Pipli. They get to the place, and Sacha Pashaji meets these Guru Sikh, and they don't dress in like robes. They were just how we see Sacha Pashaji now. You know, the kurta pajama looks the same. You know, they've got the same dastar that all the other Sikh around them have. They've dressed in normal dress, so they almost, you know, covered the fact that they're a guru or anything of a high padvi. They haven't given that robe away, and they meet the Guru Sikh, and you know, Sacha Pashaji says to them, you know, Langar Shako. And they don't recognize Guru Arjan Dev Ji because some of them might have seen them when they were very young, when Sacha Pashaji was probably about 5 or 6, or, you know, they didn't recognize him. And Sacha Pashaji continues, and they said, nay, Sacha Pashaji, they didn't call him Sacha Pashaji, but they said, nay, we're going to go to Amritsar tomorrow, and after we've seen the Guru, we'll have langar in Amritsar. So they continue, and Sacha Pashaji bows his head down lowly and said, please, look, we've made this prashada. Please have this prashada. So Sacha Pashaji like lowers themselves really, hath jod ke kendine. And they say, okay. So, you know, man ge Sikh. So they all had prashad there. They, you know, ate the prashada, and Sacha Pashaji could see that, you know, they had come from a long way, so their feet were blistered, their bodies were like battered almost, right? If you're traveling that far, it's hard on the body. So Sacha Pashaji spent most of the night massaging them, giving them, you know, massages and helping them like get comfortable in this place. And then Mataji would fan them. If it must have been a hot night, so Mataji would fan them. They would have a fan over them, and so they wake up early morning. Sacha Pashaji is still with them. They don't recognize that this is Sacha Pashaji. Sacha Pashaji travels with them to Amritsar. They enter Amritsar, and the Buzurg say to the kids, okay, you kids guard our shoes here. We're going to go and see Sacha Pashaji. We're going to mata take. We're going to have their darshan. You kids, stay here. So the kids go, we've come all this way with you guys. We want to see Sacha Pashaji. We want to see your faces when you see Sacha Pashaji. You know, they say, Babaniya, Kahaniya, Put Saput Karen. This is them physically living that. They are seeing their you know, elders worshipping, or how they get Sacha Pashaji's darshan and what happens. So they're also very excited. So Sacha Pashaji is with this group at the moment. So Sacha Pashaji sees this, said, you stay here. You continue. We'll stay here. So Sacha Pashaji and their wife Mata Gangaji, and we'll look after your shoes. You go and have Sacha Pashaji's darshan. So they go to Harmandir Sahib. They enter the Darbar Sahib. They go to Mata Tek, and Sacha Pashaji is not on the asan. And Bhai Gurdas Ji's there. So I think one of the elder Sikhs asked by Baba Buddha Ji, sorry, not by Gurdas Ji, Baba Buddha Ji, ke, where is Sach Pacha Ji? We're expecting them. Even Baba Buddha Ji was like, we're not sure. They went to go and see some Sikh in Pipali last night, and they haven't returned. We haven't seen them since. And I think Baba Buddha Ji put 2 and 2 together, and then they ran out of Darbar Sahib, ran to where Sachbashi was guarding their shoes. But Sachbashi wasn't just guarding their shoes. They had like a, you know how you like have like a scarf? They had a scarf around their neck, and they were cleaning each of the shoes. And they said, you know, each of these shoes that they saw Guru Nanak Dev Ji's shoes out of these shoes, they actually had Sachbashi's Charnandi, you know, Jode darshan out of these shoes. And Baba Buddha Ji saying to them, what are you doing? Why are you cleaning shoes? You are the guru of the time. And Sachbashi says to them, well, you've traveled with Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Do you not see Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Jode here? And even they felt that, you know, these are Sachbashi's Jode. And the Sangat were, you know, they say Pubba Mardi. Like they went Mastane, they must have gone Mastane, that Sachbashi's cleaning their shoes. But look at the humility of Sachbashi.
It's an incredible story. And it made me think of Sadhguru Pratap Singh Ji and Sadhguru Jagjit Singh Ji, how they would, you know, again, disguise themselves as just any ordinary Sikh and help the Singhs do Ishnan, Chadu di Seva. What an incredible story. I think it highlights the importance of a role model. Having a role model, having somebody that you can look at and inspire to become like.
Right. I think there's talking about Sadhguru Jagjit Singh Ji. There was a time where somebody had come to meet Sadhguru Ji, and they had never seen a picture of Sadhguru Ji. And they've come, and Sadhguru Ji with the Niji Sevak, they're all doing Nitnem at that time. So because everybody's reading Gurbani, something that maybe a lot of people don't know, but anytime Gurbani would be read, Sadhguru Ji would always make a note of that the Gurbani should be higher than them, similar to the parampara that we see from Guru Arjan Dev Ji all the way from Guru Nanak Dev Ji, that the Bani should always be kept higher than the Sangat. Meaning that's how you give the adab, that's how you give it its respect, that this is Turki Bani. And they're all, the Sikhs with Sadhguru Ji are doing their Nitnem, and the persons come to meet Sadhguru Ji, and obviously Sadhguru Ji Sikh and Sadhguru Ji are wearing the same bana, and they've gone and matha teked Pandit Gopal Singh Ji, and all of the other Singhs started laughing that they don't know who it is. They felt in their heart that they've brought shame upon me, they've embarrassed me. So he was a bit angry, and he says to Sadhguru Jagjit Singh Ji, when he finds out that this is the Guru, that and obviously that's not Sadhguru Ji saying it themselves, that's with the Sikh saying this is our Guru. And then they asked that you and your Sikh, what is the difference between you? That you're all wearing the same clothes, you can't even tell you apart. And Sadhguru Ji says there's a massive difference between me and these Sikh. Obviously he's thinking, okay, let me get ready, let me hear Sadhguru Ji do their sifta. And Sadhguru Ji says the qualities and the virtues that these Sikh have, I do not have an iota of that. And Ocharni Pega, seeing Sadhguru Ji's Nimirta.
Do you know, in that moment though, because that's a big ego trap for like the Singhs that are with Sachipasha Ji, because Sachipasha Ji's praised me and have given me this sort of like a blessing, and almost. How do you battle that?
I'll tell you a funny story, and it's somebody, you know, I'll say their name. So Ustad Kamaljeet Singh Channa, I don't know if you've heard of them. They used to live in East London.
Ragi, they did Kirtan, right?
Ragi Ji,
yeah,
Hanji.
Hanji.
Whenever Sachipasha Ji, this is what I've heard from their family, whenever Sachipasha Ji would do their sifta, they would put their fingers in their ears and just not, and physically not hear it.
Just listening to that made me think of, we're talking about these amazing people because of their virtue of being humble. And I can't think of one person who I would look up to or have a conversation with if they held a bit of arrogance. I don't think I could have a conversation with somebody who thought they knew everything. And I think if you're a Sikh, you can't know everything because that contradicts your name in being a Sikh and a student.
If you go through life thinking like that, then if you actually knew what that person was like, because like now for myself, I know all that I've got. I know that I'm a terrible person inside in terms of what I can think and what I can get, what my mind can get up to. But if I'm honest with you, I'm not of that level where you say I could be arrogant in myself as well. I am probably arrogant loads of times. So does that mean you stop talking to everyone?
Could you hold a conversation with somebody who in every other sentence was like, nahi par daya, nahi par daya? I don't think I could have a conversation with somebody like that.
I think it's the element of maybe it is what you're saying is it's very difficult, or there's no anand in talking to somebody that's arrogant.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't feel like sitting with them. I think that obviously Saguruji Kirpa karan that we get to that level where even sitting with them we get that anand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree in the sense that sitting with the arrogant person is very difficult. You don't feel any peace. And Sadhguruji says, Darshan dekh to hote nihal, meaning that to see to see your guru, you should feel that anand, right?
Like that physical, I'm putting my fingers in my ears so that I don't hear my sift. There's tidbits like that in Gurbani where you can leverage Gurbani. For example, if you met somebody arrogant and you genuinely couldn't have a conversation or hold a conversation with them, then the antidote to that is chalo ye bhi mere rabb de banaye hoye banda hai, chalo koi gal nahi, and then you walk off. There's loads like if the one that I really like for myself is galli asi changiya achari buriya risa kare tinadiya jo seva dar khadiya. Like I'm well spoken, I'm soft spoken, but actually, in actual fact, I don't wake up in the morning. I get angry at people. I let my intrusive thoughts win, and I think where I relate to that shabad at the beginning of Mohin Sabgun Tere Main Nahi Koi. In Gurbani Sache Paatshah says, Rakh Pita Prabh Mere Mohin Nirgun Sabgun Tere Panch Pikadi Ek Gariba Rakho Rakhanhare. Okay, every single day I'm being tormented by these 5 vices of anger, lust, ego, attachment, and you are my savior. I have no virtue of being able to save myself through speech or karam. It's only through you that I can be saved.
There was a Sakhi. It comes in Sukhan Bayant, and the title of it is Thapada, meaning like receiving the blessings of Shabash within my dream. On the 9th of September 1977, Kavi Pritam Singh Ji writes that they're traveling towards Sadhguru Pratap Singh Ji's Mandar, Pratap Mandar. Sadhguru Ji saying to Kavi Ji, because they had a very close relationship, today at night, for the first time in my life, I had the darshan of Guru Hari Singh Ji in my dream. Sadhguru Ji saying to Kavi Pritam Singh Ji. And look how Sache Paatshah is not taking it upon themselves that, look, Guru Hari Singh Ji blessed me. And they're saying, and Sadhguru Ji is saying to Kavi Ji that I think the meaning of this is that yesterday somebody came to me and I tried my best to have the utmost patience with that person. And I, with patience, spoke with that person. And I think because of that, Guru Hari Singh Ji has come and blessed me.
Why is patience synonymous with Guru Hari Singh Ji? Please elaborate on that.
You have to, I guess, let's go back, let's travel back and bring our minds to Sri Panisam. And it's a time where the Singhs have become Shaheed in Maler Kotla. And Sadhguru Ram Singh Ji's prophecy of that these foreigners will come and take me to faraway lands and you'll not be able to see me for a long time. And this is a time where on the Namtari Panth, on the Kuka Panth, 5 people aren't allowed to meet each other. Even for doing an Akhand part, you would get 7 years imprisonment. This is a time where a lot of people beshard bhi ho gaye. They've lost their faith. Even some people even question Guru Hari Singh Ji. Even the family of Sadhguru Ji are judging them. And it is said that Sadhguru Ji always, anybody that did Sadhguru Hari Singh Ji's darshan, their head was always low like this. So this was their posture at all time. And I think they were the epitome of what Sadhguru Pratap Singh Ji's Mataji used to say, Mata Jivan Kaur Ji, that bure naal sab karan burai, maaf karne kai siane, bure naal fir neki karni, e Guru Nanak jane. Meaning that loads of people who are hold negativity towards others, they are proposing negativity towards each other. Some wise people, they have that ability to forgive. And only Guru Nanak Dev Ji has that ability to forgive the one that has wronged him. And Guru Hari Singh Ji, I think, is the epitome of that. A lot of people don't know, but Sadhguru Ram Singh Ji was very strict. If somebody went wrong, Sadhguru Ji, you would know about it. Without going into a lot of detail, you would know about it. And the Sikh used to do arj to Guru Hari Singh Ji, that why aren't you strict with the Sikhs? Like, you know that where they are wrong, why don't you tell them? And Sadhguru Ji says the fact that they are still with me shows their love. That's how hard the times were. So yeah, I think Guru Hari Singh Ji, and another element, I think Sadhguru Hari Singh Ji through Vairag, I think Vairag Devi Sommesan, that through Vairag of Sadhguru Ram Singh Ji not being with them, they cried and cried so much that they eventually became blind. One time the Sikhs, they were going in a plane and they do arj to Sadhguru Jagdish Singh Ji, that when somebody makes a mistake, how do we know when to let other people know of that mistake? And how do we know when to hide it? Or should we even hide it? And Sadhguru Jagdish Singh Ji says, I'll remind you of Sadhguru Pratap Singh Ji's teachings. That Sadhguru says, I have been brought up by a mother, that even if somebody did shrarat, if somebody did wrong, even underneath their bed, right, underneath their munji, o fir bhi nahi chitarde hunde se. They still forgave that person, and they, through their love, they used to put that person on the right path again. That Sadhguru says your first attempt should always be to forgive that person, and with love show them the right way. And then Sadhguru says there's going to be times where you're going to need to go further, but always do that with wisdom.
I find it really interesting when we speak about humility, how Sadhguru Nanak Dev Ji genuinely lived, and they saw, like, we talk about Sikhi, right, as this ungraspable concept, but the truth or the tenets of Sikhi being compassion, forgiveness, humility, service, these have always existed as the truth. And Sadhguru Nanak Dev Ji, when they're looking at a tree that's tall and strong, and they're reflecting on the fact that the fruits of this tree have no taste, no flavor. They look pretty, but they've got nothing inside of them. And then observing the fact that when a bird comes and lands on the tree with expectation of, that these fruits are going to be incredibly sweet, but leaving in despair or disappointment because there was nothing in there. And then Sachabashi writes, Simal ruk saraira at diragat much, oje ave askar, jahi narasikit, fal fikke, full bakbake, kamana ave pat, mithatni vi nanka, tat. And I was reading a translation of like this story, and somebody related that story to life, in that we expect so much from life, that we're going to become this, we're going to do that, we're going to become this, people are going to love us, people are going to adore us, we'll have loads of fame and money, but eventually leaving empty-handed. and not accumulating psychological wealth of being able to forgive people, being able to be tolerable of people, being able to be compassionate when we see somebody that's struggling.
Yeah.
Baji, just quickly, do you remember when we was in Vancouver, the Blueberries?
Oh yeah.
Do you want to tell
Go on,
that
do you want to
example?
explain that? No, you go on.
I had a couple examples actually of how in Sikhi there's a parampara of observation and learning through observation. I'll give this example, and if it's all right, I'll give a couple of examples that I saw from Bhai Gurdas Ji's Vara. When we was in Vancouver with Sadhguruji, we went to this farm, and there was a lot of these blueberries, and it was a very hot day, and we looked at the blueberries like on the top, so that was in our like hands reach level, and we were eating those, and they didn't really taste great, but they looked bigger, they looked nicer, but they didn't taste great. And Bazi said, "Oh, let's try these ones a bit lower down." And when you tasted those, one, they were really cold because of the shadow, because of the shade, and two, they're the most sweet and tasty blueberries I've ever had. And ਉਹਦੇ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਨੇ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਣਾਇਆ ਕਿ ਮਿੱਠੇ ਤੇ ਨੀਵੀਂ ਨਾਨਕਾ ਬਣ ਚੰਗੀਆਂ ਆਈਆਂ ਤਤ ਕਿ those blueberries that were at the bottom, that through that observation that Gurbani is there around us as if through observation.
Good word is effervescent, because it permeates through everything, right?
Beautiful word. There's and then I wanted to give a couple of examples from Bhai Gurdas Ji's Vara. 3 examples. One Bhai Gurdas Ji gives the example of what do we learn from the charana and how that connects to humility. Then they talk about tarti to upadesh, meaning what can we learn from the earth. And then they say jal to upadesh, meaning what can we learn from water. And just really quickly going through those 3, I won't go through the vars in detail, but in the first var, when they're talking about the lotus charan of the Guru, and they say, and if I asked you the question that when we bow down to somebody, why do we touch their feet? Where all of their knowledge is coming from is coming from their mind, right? Why do we then go and bow to their feet? You don't go there and knock somebody on the head, right? We go and bow. And it says here that, look, the head is high, but the feet are low. And why? What can we observe from this? And Bhai Gurdas is saying that the face, the eyes, the ears, and the efforts of the day is all carried by your charan. And this is one example of this. They go in a lot more detail, but I think we've understood that the concept of that one. In Tarti to Upadesh, they talk about the element of how the ground, no matter what you do, is always below us. Right? You're never going to see the ground being above you. Even if you're going to go and see a mountain, you can see the mountain, but to go then to experience that mountain, every time you're going to walk closer to it, the ground of that mountain is always going to be below your feet. And they talk about this earth is such that whatever you plant into it, that's what you get. And they say, "Hey, koi har mandar kare, ko kare arudi," meaning that somebody here constructs something as beautiful as Harmandir Sahib, and somebody elsewhere, and I think people have seen this when they come from Delhi airport, of mounds of rubbish. Some people go and create efforts like that. Like, look at the difference, right? One place you've created this something of beauty where people can come and learn, and the other place is really of no use. And then the last one, the one I really love, is Jal to Upadesh, and is saying how, look at the nature of water. It will take all the heat and become steam and condensate and become clouds, and through becoming heavy, then again it rains. But why? Only for parupakar, right? Only for the benefit of the land. And Bhai Gurdas Ji throughout this whole var is talking about the benefit of the upadesh that we get from Jal, meaning a Sikh should be in such that one, their nature is always to go lower and lower, but always benefit all. And no matter how high you get, the true nature is that it's always going to rain back down and always going to seep deep down into the roots of the earth.
See, I love how poetic and beautiful that is. I done the opposite. So what I did was, I typed in ChatGPT, how can I become humble? And what did it give me? You know what? It's actually really cool. I think ChatGPT has been reading good, Barney. So the first thing is self-reflection. So spend time reflecting on your strengths and weaknesses, acknowledge your flaws, and recognize there is always room for improvement. Right. Second one is practice gratitude. Now, I think it's something that related to my last week's Japanese fact, but practice gratitude. You know, when you eat food, again, it comes back to that concentration and dhyan. That burki, so that piece of bread that you're having, the roti or whatever it is, has come through such a process from the person who's grown the grain, how such bashi has given it the right amount of rain, right amount of sunlight, and everyone who's come along the journey to bring it to your plate. I think that's really important. Listen more. So we always say, why have we got two ears and one mouth? It's because, you listen double and talk once, which is pretty cool. Acknowledge others. So, and then it goes on to say serving others. So Seva is huge in humility, and we've talked about Paikaneya on each one of these episodes. We can't leave him out. He's a massive character in definitely reflection in my life. That how can you become more like Paikaneya?
In Sadhguru Vilas, it says during Guru Ram Singh's time, there's 10 Singhs that who are serving the langar. So they are the Singhs that have the duty of serving langar.
Yep.
And one of the Singhs, his name is Harnam Singh. And he comes late. And Sadhguruji asks that, why do you come late? And he says that every day I do Panch Granthi, and I read that every day. Right? So this is like Japji, Jap, Sukhmani, and 3 other Banis. And Sadhguruji says, those things that are always looking after my gadde, meaning their form of transport, ota move in it, meaning you care so much about becoming pure. They don't even get a chance to wash their face. Yeah. Don't you think they deserve liberation? Sadhguruji says, you don't think they want to become mukt? Sadhguruji says, you think that only the people that read the Panch Granthis should become mukt. And Sadhguruji in response says, Seva karni bhajan bani thi uttam hai.
We've spoken a lot about humility and like why it's important to be humble. I don't know if we have actually. Why is it important to be humble?
Do you think humility is a way, while we're in the duality, to gain an essence of what the ultimate truth is?
Kabirji says it so well. Kabirji wrote this shabad through Masti ki Kabir kukar Ram ko mutiya mero nao gale hamare jevri jah khincha tah jao. Giving up your intellect ki main tera kutta aya, tu mera malik hai, main tera kutta aya. Jithe tu minu leke jayega utthe main javanga. Being able to call yourself a dog, but again, like you say, Juan, it's not lowering your self-esteem, because ja tu ta main maan kiya hai. Tudh bin kiya mera mano. Je minu pata mera, if I know that my malik, my owner, is mahan, is compassionate beyond a thought, is will forgive me for pandar parya hoya mere, my malik is the greatest of all. Tum ho sab rajan ke raja, aape aap gareeb nawaja. Ki je tu wo cheez hai na, then I've got nothing to worry about. Jithe tu minu leke jayega wo sahi jagah hai.
I think we laugh sometimes between the 3 of us of if anybody actually got the uncut version of some of these podcasts, that how we would quote unquote get cancelled. Yeah. But really, who is there on this earth that doesn't deserve by other people's standards to be cancelled? Cancel the whole world then. Right?
It's true.
Everybody's cancelled. All right, then what does that mean now? Let's start again. Right? And I think daily that is what we're doing, right? There's this element of a reset. And only, I think, through humility can we allow ourselves that reset. Right? Otherwise,
wanting to do
better, right? Because we always laugh between us, right? There's probably been times even during this recording where we think, okay, we probably shouldn't have said that, but there's ultimate essence of maybe Guru Nanak Dev Ji making us realize that padaya anpadaya paramagat pave. You can't achieve anything by thinking that I will speak perfectly all the time, right? I think that's what makes these things real, right?
The other thing is, sometimes I think even Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Sachapasaji, whoever you want to say, throw those laughs in just so that you enjoy yourself. Because it's so, it can be so, like holy people of the cloth, people of like religion tend to be very rigid and firm. Okay, no, this is the way.
Yeah.
We've got to do it like this. We can't laugh. We can't joke. Not the laughing yoga. Have you guys ever been to Benares?
No.
Laughing yoga? No.
Yeah, man. So we're walking on the river Ganga, and this is about 8:30 in the morning. We just had some dud at a restaurant, and we're coming out, and I just hear these laughs in the corner. Ha 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 ha. I'm like, that's a false laugh, firstly, because when you laugh like kulke. Yeah? And there's like 60 people doing this laughing yoga on the banks of the river Ganga. It's so weird, man. But they get something out of it, right?
Oh, actually, one thing I forgot to say was, I think even going to the Gurdwara, going to the Dharamsala and wanting to be part of the Sadh Sangat, Sadhguruji, like, may they bless all of us. Like, it's not like I'm trying to say that I live by this ideal, but it's definitely an ideal that I would love to live by, is no matter what, never give up the Sadh Sangat. Right? Through our own personal issues with a certain individual, we should never give up the Sadh Sangat. And I think this also relates back to humility. That even, and Sadhguru Pratap Singh Ji gives the example of Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji, where they realized their mistake. They tied themselves to the tree and say, yes, I deserve the lashings from Akali Baba Fula Singh Ji, who Sadhguru Pratap Singh Ji says, over this Santasan. And Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji doing that, right? Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji there is showing that they are a worthy king, somebody that can admit when they're wrong. And sometimes when Sadhguruji blesses us with Vidya, when we talk about Vidya, Brahm Vidya, knowledge about Siddhant, about philosophy, we become quite complacent. Right? That we kind of, and we spoke about this previously, but through philosophical gymnastics in our mind, we start using all of these different teachings and forget the mool, right? So we can convince ourselves that actually not waking up, not doing bhajan bani isn't really the be all and end all. You convince yourself, oh, Sadhguruji here said seva is really important, so I'll do a little bit of seva, then I don't need to do my bhajan bani, right? Really, that's not the way, right? And how that kind of takes us away from the essence of what Sadhguruji is trying to tell us. Whereas you see those Sikh who take Sadhguruji's Upadesh, and we can talk about Balmiki here, where they take one Upadesh, they meet their Guru once, right? And that is the cause of their liberation, because they wholeheartedly, with steadfastness, followed that teaching, right? And I think we gave that example previously, and Subhaji said the same thing, which is, and there's an element of humility there, of what you sow, right? So what you sow in terms of the belief you have in your Guru, that's what you're going to get out of it.
So in Christianity, it says you reap what you reap is what you sow.
100%. And Sadhguru is saying that apna hathi apna ape hi kaaj sawariye karmi apo apni kede ke nede ke dur. In terms of the actual growth of what has grown there, that's kudrat, balihari kudrat vasya. That you've planted the seed, right? You've given that initial water. The rest, in terms of rainfall, in terms of that plant then growing, in terms of the fruit of that plant, the ras of that plant, there's no farmer going there and injecting everything with sugar. And I've heard this a lot, and it's so true, that steadfastness of that faith of what you've planted, you will reap that one day. That, let's say for 10 years, it took that fruit to grow. And imagine we in Vidya, there's this concept of spirituality is this thing where it's the ultimate khazana, but it's that one which you can't see daily.
Yeah.
Right? You can't see the progress of that plant growing, of the ras building up within it. And Sant Satnam Singh Ji told me one time that when they started going Panisam, Sant Harnam Singh Ji, and even anybody that knows in the UK, there's somebody called Sant Mani Singh Ji from UK. And even in one of their talks, they mentioned Sant Harnam Singh Ji, about how when they went to meet Sant Harnam Singh Ji, they asked for bhajan from Sant Harnam Singh Ji, and for I don't know what they said, but then the Gurmantar kept on ringing in their ears after Sant Harnam Singh Ji gave them
for a certain amount of
time. And anyway, going back to that point, this Sant Harnam Singh Ji, Brahmgyani Mahapurush, and Sant Harnam Singh Ji, when they start going, and they're saying that I didn't get a lot of joy out of sitting, but I had that faith that Sadhguru Jagajit Singh Ji has sent me to Santaji. I should listen to what they're telling me, right? And as they kept going, and they went for multiple years, they did Paryog. And they said 1 year, Harnam Singh Ji comes up to them and says, "Tera panda saaf ho gaya hun thanu bhajan danne," that your vessel has become clean now. Now is the time to give you the Guru Mantra. And Santaji says, and they said, I was always like this. I always ask questions. And maybe, Asapaji, this is what you were getting at, is I don't think we should ever get rid of our inquisitiveness and that element of us which is true, where we do get angry when we don't understand things, right? Or when we think something's wrong, we do want to stand up for it. And I wouldn't want that to ever go. And Sant Harnam Singh Ji is saying that, what do you mean, mera panda saaf ho gaya? I've never seen it. And Sant Harnam Singh Ji is saying, tell me one thing, before when you used to come to do Naam Simran, pehla man lagda si? They said, no. Hun lagda hai? Kehndi, hanji, bahut vadiya lagda Naam Simran karke. They said, before when you used to listen to Gatha, could you listen to all of the Gatha? They said, no, I used to get distracted. They said, can you listen to all of it now? They said, yeah, I can follow it. They said, these are the signs tera panda saaf ho gaya. And Sant Satnam Singh Ji, Viragi ho janda si, when they used to say that, when then they gave me bhajan, they gave it in one ear and then gave it in the other ear. And after giving the bhajan, they asked Sant Harnam Singh Ji asked Sant Satnam Singh Ji, ke kamai jiਵੇਂ ਬਣਿਆ ਬਣਾਈ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਮਿਹਨਤ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ? And the Sanji says, mehnat karni. And they lived by that. And you could tell from Bhagta ki chal and nirali, challa nirali, Bhagta hakeri, etmar they become very unique as people, I think. Their way of walking, their way of talking becomes unique. You can feel it from them. Yeah.
Let's wrap up, guys. What is your fun fact for this week? I'm going to go with Jawan Singh Ji because Asa never likes going first.
No, it's normally me. I don't normally go first because I never prepared, but I did prepare this time. I learned that Albert Einstein in 1952 was offered the presidency of Israel.
Wow.
And he politely declined, and he stated that I lack the natural aptitude and experience to deal with people.
I learned a new word. So the word is sonda, and it means the realization that the people I'm looking at also have as complex as a life as me. They have dreams, hopes, desires, anxieties, insecurities, all like I do. And that is quite a humbling word, I think, because it brings light to the fact that we're all the same, essentially, under the hood.
My fun fact is also Japanese. Again, I'm going with another Japanese fact. The officially verified oldest man was how old?
I don't know, 150?
Well, in 2013, there was a gentleman called Jeremon Kimomura, and he was 116 years old. Hello, guys. Thank you very much for that episode. I really learned a lot. I hope our listeners learned a lot too. But we didn't actually get to the crux of why we need to be humble, but I think we gave loads of episodes and loads of fun facts along the way and loads of anecdotes. So hopefully that gives you something to think about this week.